Everyone get excited by what they just saw with Magic Leap? Just like the axe was at the door, there's Magic Leaps for everyone. Just kidding. I wish. So one quick question. I'd like to have a test. Does anyone know where the name Panda Conference comes from? All right. We have 2 people who know that. So if you can conjure up an idea and send me a note on the app, we'll announce the winner at the next session. So it's a strange origin. Just be prepared. I wanted to talk about something that's very close to my heart. I've spent the bulk of my career with chief marketing officers helping measure marketing effectiveness, attribution, and return on investment. With a show of hands, can you tell me who in the audience comes from the advertising agency part of the business? How about are you a marketer on the marketer side of the business? Great. How about the media company side of the business? How about you're in the wrong room? Okay, yeah, great. Perfect. Thank you. That's really helpful to understand. So this topic of measurement, return on investment has never been more important as we see, and you'll hear more about from my presentation keynote later this afternoon about the role of AI and measurement and the role of the CMO. It's changing everything. The tenure of the marketing executives are getting longer. The ability to prove the business impact is getting stronger. We have the data now. We have the ability to measure all these things. So I'm very excited about digging into that more this afternoon with you. Right now, I wanted to introduce you to a few people who are going to talk about how to do this with matching publishers and all the digital data that's out there in ways to look at business intelligence and reporting and so forth. That's, I think, very exciting. So, and I've known this company for a long time. So Yahoo Finance USA Today writer Rob Pegoraro, L'Oreal's Global Chief Performance Officer Vincent Stuhlen, and Domo's Chief Product Officer Catherine Wong are going to come out and talk about what they're doing together. So I'd like you to give a warm welcome to them. Thank you.
Hello, so Rob. Let's talk marketing, advertising, trying to get people to buy stuff. So I wanted to start with something that I often run up against, both as a journalist and a reader, which is how weird the programmatic advertising market can be, inexplicable and sometimes kind of ugly. So how do you all try to make that work for you in ways that you can actually measure and hopefully result in people buying more stuff?
Yeah. So I think, data plays a really big role in that, and, Vincent's certainly done a ton on that front.
Yes, maybe that's a question for me, I guess, because there's been a lot of noise. Some of our competitors were talking a lot about, programmatic advertising not working for them, and we find this a bit weird because we've been working very hard, starting in 2013, attacking really programmatic on a tech perspective, skills perspective, and working with our platforms partners to be super smart about it. So it was not necessarily a smooth ride. We had issues with KPIs, sometimes metrics not showing up properly. But in the end, it was all about putting all the right levels of control, like third-party software for fraud prevention, visibility, and then setting up the right KPIs, but ultimately measuring ROI end-to-end. And this is where I think we've been smart as a company to invest in a very large ROI research program to make sure that we understand the output. So when we come and discuss with those partners, it's a lot about the output and efficiency of the way we do, using our ROI equation, which is relevant content times good execution, and of course the right mix. And then we can talk smartly with those partners.
Good, and I guess you've got this cockpit interface to track all this stuff in real time?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so how about all these other channels? You have programmatic advertising, you have ads placed specifically, working through, I hate to use the I word, influencers. How has your use of that, how has that mix changed over the past few years as you've been able to pull in more of this data?
Like basically, we've been looking at the whole marketing opportunity, not only paid, but also owned and earned. And we really try to understand what are the right elements of the mix which perform better. So for programmatic, we had a real push to internalize a lot of the skills and to be in this real-time bidding mode where we can really understand the output real-time and change everything as we wish to get the best performance. Then we had to blend into this mix because in cosmetic, we are one of the industry where owned and earned is extremely important. We've been doing influencers for 40 years, and this is where also we're trying to ramp up our skills to work with influencers in total transparency, but also measure the output. So this is part of a paid owned earned mix of what we do, trying to measure ROI of every single activity.
Good. And can we get into some examples of campaigns that worked very well, or maybe it's more fun to talk about the ones that flopped, where there were more lessons learned?
Yeah. Hopefully, a lot of campaigns we do are pretty successful because we gain market share year after year. So I think we got pretty good at it. But to be honest, when we have some flops, and it's just now the way we analyze those to be super sharp. So sometimes, we do lots of intense pre-testing of the creativity, post-testing. Sometimes on the fly we can change it, and that might be one of the bias into the output. So we can sometimes you could see that the creative was not properly associated with the brand, therefore it was not lifting sales as expected. On other side, it's about having the right mix per category. So thanks to our research program, now we're much sharper in adjusting the right elements between offline and online, and within online, between the platforms and between the format within the platforms themselves. So this is the way we can measure things better.
Yeah, I think one of the things we've loved about working with Vincent and such a brand like L'Oreal is that they're really transforming how this works across so many different channels, so many different technologies, really pulling it together using the Domo platform really enables this real-time analysis and understanding down to the creative of what is effective and what can be improved.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the downsides. Ad fraud is a real thing and a much bigger problem than I think the average reader would know. What sort of successes have you been able to reach in curbing that problem and, not seeing your money vanish into the online ad ecosystem?
I'm not too sure I get the question.
The ad fraud. It's a real problem for this industry, and for my industry as well, for that matter. And so, is it getting better? Have we turned a corner on that?
You mean fraud?
Ad fraud.
Yes,
Fraud on inventory. So on that one, it's of course it's a concern, and for us it was all about implementing the right fraud prevention mechanism. So we work with our partners to implement, like ad science, mode, third-party verification tools to make sure that the inventory is displayed where we want, that it is visible, and so we're kind of whitelisting some of the safe destination we want to be in, and we're blacklisting. So for us, the fraud, we measure it. I won't give you the number, but we are very pleased with where we are. So we were far below, I think, the average industry numbers. That's because we've been putting the right ad tech stack, in place, and also training hundreds of marketeers internally, but also on agency side to be at the right level.
Okay. So on that subject of ad tech, certainly this entire hall and the 3 square miles of exhibits here, there's a lot of shiny objects in ad tech and marketing tech. How do you sort of stay focused on things that will actually solve your problem instead of being buzzword compliant?
Yeah, certainly from our perspective, right, we look at that explosion that you referenced, and there's so many new technologies. And from a platform perspective, what we really seek to provide with our customers is the ability to abstract across a lot of that and plug into all of those different data sources in real time. Really what we're trying to do is enable marketers and customers to take action on that data, right? To be able to look at it, analyze it, and then be really thoughtful about making those changes in real time.
Yes, because that's truly the complexity today, this explosion of different channels, different tactics. each time it comes with a new marketing technology. So you know there are 10,000 vendors out there, and it's very difficult for the marketeers to keep up. So that's why we decided some time ago to really have a thorough data strategy and work with Domo actually to be our analytics cloud and to kind of declutter all those different data sources. So we plug into hundreds of different sources, different partners, but we make it available into one dashboard for marketeers.
Yeah, so let's talk about this concept of transparency, and another thing that we could use more of in this line of work. You've talked about having the shared truth that everyone can look at through that dashboard. You've mentioned having a multi-layer cake approach to customer feedback. I like cake, so that really caught my eye. So I take it customers appreciate this keeps them coming back?
Yeah. So, we look at our customers as really strategic partners, and we take a multifaceted approach to how we really develop the platform. So, for example, we have a customer advisory board. Vincent and other strong brands are on that board, and that allows us to really hear feedback throughout the year as they're deploying strategic initiatives. We also have our developers and our product managers listen to support calls. We invite direct feedback in the product. And really what we're trying to do is make sure we're constantly hearing that signal and empowering our own employees to be able to act on that. And that's really, I think, when we talk about data transparency within an organization, we're really trying to empower employees to be able to make the right decision at the right time with the right data.
Yeah, I think you recognize you're a very demanding client, and actually, working with Domo, and trying to simplify our technology stack, we know that we need to make some choices. It's a multi-tenant software, so it's shared by many clients, but we appreciate the partnership in defining what can make it a competitive advantage for us as a marketeer. And one of the discussion, when you refer to the single version of truth, it's a lot about how we measure performance. Very often the industry talks about click-through rates or about a cost per completed view, and those are very tiny KPIs, and we try to look at the broader perspective about what is performance ultimately, and it's about sales. Do I create incremental sales, divided by investment? So that's the definition of ROI. But then it's also about, do I build brand long term, and do I build customer satisfaction? And when you are in a B2B company, when you don't master the whole end distribution and you partner with retailers, getting that satisfaction data is not that easy. But thanks to the multiple sourcing we do, from social listening to customer care, we're able to blend one holistic 360-degree vision of customer satisfaction. And for this, technology helps to create a 360 vision.
So it was interesting. I read an interview you did a couple of years ago. I had to practice my French to read it, where at the time, I guess, e-commerce sales for L'Oreal were only 5%.
Okay.
And obviously, you were looking to change that. There was an ambitious plan to open up 200 e-commerce sites. 2 years later, where are we at? How is this going?
Okay, so that's from my previous job, actually, when I was Chief Digital Officer for L'Oréal Luxe, and that was probably much older than that. So we don't communicate about the numbers anymore on the market, but we've been catching up, growing faster than the market. And what was, I think, smart at that time was to to elaborate a strategy where we have the right equilibrium between what we should offer direct, D2C, because many of our brands are luxury brands, and it's the right way to master the end customer experience. And by the way, we're becoming much more of a retailer, physical retailer too. Then we've been growing also a lot our businesses with our traditional retail partners, helping them accelerate digital, and of course working with pure players. So today we're pretty pleased with the way we maximize the opportunity in every channel.
Gotcha. Now, in terms of, you do have this mixed strategy online in store. To what extent can you tell when a customer walks into a store that it was an ad on the web or on a social network that got them thinking to make this purchase?
So on that one, as I said before, we're trying to have really a holistic vision of the performance, sell, customer satisfaction, marketing mix, and ultimately, long-term ROI. So on that one, of course, today, because it's, it's not digital marketing anymore, it's really marketing in the digital age. We need to have this pay-don't-earn view of things. With the right equilibrium, but also on and offline. So a lot of the data and ROI research is really about understanding ROPO effect, for example, research online, purchase offline, but also vice versa. And thanks to the data we get now, we have a much better understanding of how that works. And we do extensive research with our partners like Facebook, Google, to really understand that effect. So we're really now in the stage where we consider it's not digital marketing anymore. It's really marketing in the digital age. And by the way, you know, our 3,000 top-end marketeers have been trained to incorporate digital within their skills, on and offline.
And that's been a big part of, you know, what we've built to facilitate that view, to be able to connect to online and offline data. Wherever the data resides, we connect to that so that we can facilitate that analysis. We build for the enterprise, certainly, so we take into account security, governance, privacy, all of those factors, but we're really designing for people to be able to use the tool, and so enabling thousands of employees and marketers throughout L'Oreal to take action.
So you mentioned privacy, and it does say in my contract I have to have a GDPR question in every panel I do.
Of course.
So I was thinking, to the extent you have this effort on transparency and tracking and analytics everyone can look at, has that made GDPR compliance easier?
You know, it's certainly really important.
I can give my point of view, and after you can give yours, Catherine. I mean, for us, we really saw GDPR more as an opportunity rather than a constraint. And I think a lot of companies approach that really on the constraint angle. They had to put a chief privacy officer everywhere. For us, it was really a way to just show that, I mean, we work in permission marketing, and getting the consent is key. Allowing people to look at their own personal data is key. Opting out in one click is key. So we've been really, I think, at the forefront of what it could be. And now, you know, on our own channels, like websites, CRM databases, it's super clear, you know, what kind of data we're retrieving, what for what service to the end consumer, and letting them opting out if they want. When it comes to transparency with, for example, influencers, because there's a lot of you know, buzz about this, sometimes the platform were not really clear about what is sponsored, what is not. And here we have a very clear code of conduct and really make sure that we write, you know, we agree on the ethics of what we want to say, but we also conduct more and more background checks to make sure that the past, you know, of the influencers we work with is clean.
Data trust and privacy has been baked in from the beginning in our platform. It's such a critical component to any system that's really dealing with data. So we see it as an opportunity as well, rather than a constraint.
I think we need to show this clip to every ad manager at an American newspaper who've decided that GDPR is too hard, so they'll just not let anyone read their site in the EU.
But GDPR is a good thing for both industry and consumer, for sure.
Gotcha. So now let's move on to the sort of, you've talked about customer storytelling with data to sort of get people to adopt this and to stop doing things the old way. Let's expand on that a little bit and, you know, give me an example of some of these stories you've been able to tell and to get people to bring their campaigns online to social networks.
So here you're referring to, I mean, the way we use data and, you know, to be smarter marketeers. And I must say that, you know, in the old world, you had a TV campaign. All the, you know, your power was about buying power. Then you had to have the right creative, push it, get your GRP, which is kind of a TV pressure, and that's it. And so the data was very scarce. You add it at the end of your campaign. And now it's very different because you've got all those different data sources we talked about, precision media, influencers, and to put all the data back into the end of the marketeer is really changing the game. And it's changing a lot the way we work. For example, again, if I take the TV example, we were working with agencies, you know, applying for a long time, getting the TV spot, launching, looking at sales 1 or 2 weeks after, not really real time. Now with precision media, it's actually real time, and because of that, we have internalized more and more, you know, like trading desk and specific skills to be able to manage this in real time. So this data access is changing in the fact that we measure performance, and more we're getting into the real-time ROI of what we measure. And the second dimension beyond the performance is the reactivity, the real-time dimension, which is changing the way we operate internally, externally.
And by real time, we are talking actually real time, not 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later?
Yeah.
Oh.
Great. So marketing in general, there's always this historical bad reputation that you tell people what they want to hear, and it sounds like here you've been able to move away from that, but you can have this stash of data everyone can look at. Has that sort of been able to change your image inside your companies as, no, we're actually telling you what's going on. Trust me, this is real. This is not just me telling you this to make you feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely a lot of cultural shift, and internally we see many organizations trying to, and being successful at shifting the culture to one of a transformative nature, undergoing this digital transformation internally, which informs what employees are able to do by giving them the data that they need at the right time. So when we connect all the data, as well as the people and the systems within an organization, it can bring about this cultural transformation that you're referencing.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if marketing had a bad reputation, but at some point, people were talking about marketing pressure. There was, of course, I mean, if you talk about fake news or, just not safe advertising or advertising landing in wrong places or wrong advertising getting to the right places, I think all this was about the maturity of it. But we talk a lot about, respecting the consumer when it comes to GDPR, privacy. It's also about listening, because advertising is still powering a lot of the free web. And so because it's a way to power it, it's also, I mean, you have to make it relevant. So it's about distributing the right content to the right person at the right time. And all this should be done in respect to the end consumer. So I think that every company today, because of the way bad buzz can catch up, have to really respect this, otherwise it will backfire.
Good. So I got to make it my last question. We've talked from the start about metrics and results and measuring results. By the end of the year, what do you want to have changed in your customers' minds about L'Oreal online? Is there, besides, good company, they make me look good?
For us, it's quite simple in the end. We say, I mean, success is sales, of course. So people really liking the products, buying them. It's about building brands, which is something extremely important. We've got 35 brands, from mass to luxury, very famous. And the way we build brand over the long time, which we measure, is something critical. But the end thing is customer satisfaction, and which is measured by the way they talk about us, both the product and the brands, the way they engage with us on social networks, for example, and just building this long-term relationship. So for us, success looks like, in the end, always as a customer satisfaction. And I would say, on an internal point of view, a lot about getting to the end of our transformation process, where it's not really digital being somewhere in the organization, it's really digital being at the heart of marketing, at the heart of sales and customer care, and we're really close to the stage where we have achieved marketing in the digital age. And this is, I think, the moment where we can be proud of the quality of the relationship we have with the consumers, but also the performance we have just delivering ROI for the company.
It's very holistic.
Excellent. Well, we're out of time. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening.